Welcome back, my friends, to AA Recovery Interviews. I'm your host, Howard L., and I'm an alcoholic. Sober since January 1st, 1988, one day at a time. I'm grateful you've joined us. AA Recovery Interviews is the podcast where Alcoholics Anonymous members from around the world share their timeless and extraordinary stories of experience, strength, and hope. There are hundreds of awesome interviews in the AA Recovery Interviews podcast series. Listen to every hour-long episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also listen on the website, aarecoveryinterviews.com. Each story is a powerful testimony of the recovery available to all in Alcoholics Anonymous. Now on with the show. There was a time when alcohol ruled the life of my guest on today's show, Ron B., when chaos, loss, and despair were constant companions. But he fought his way back, one day at a time, from the wreckage of addiction to a life built on faith, humility, and service. Today, at more than 43 years of sobriety, he's more than a man in recovery. He's a guide, a mentor, and living proof that sobriety isn't just survival, it's freedom. This is the story of a man who turned his worst defeats into a life devoted to helping other alcoholics rise from the ashes of total despair to lives of meaning and joy. So sit back and enjoy today's episode of AA Recovery Interviews with my friend and AA brother, Ron B.
I'm sorry, what's your first name?
My name is Howard.
Howard, okay.
Yeah, so one of the things I've found over my life, Ron, is that, and it is Ron, right?
Yes.
Okay. One of the things I found over my life, Ron, is that people just cannot seem to remember the name Howard. It's an unusual name. Most people don't know anybody named Howard.
Yeah.
So several years ago, I decided that I would come up with a meme, a way for people to remember my name, program, because I try and remember everybody's name, but people always forget my name. And sometimes people won't tell you when they've forgotten your name. All they'll do is say, "How you doing, bud?" Or "So good to see you."
I don't mind asking, because my memory is
right.
that
And I do,
good.
and so I asked too. But I came up with a meme, and that is this. Chapter 5 in the Big Book. What's the name of Chapter 5 in the Big Book?
How it works.
Howard
works. It's going to be you and me.
Yeah, so this is the kind of thing that I do. I sit and record, and I'm really glad we're having the chance to do this.
Okay.
And you and I just met. I mean, we literally just met, Ron.
Yes.
And I appreciate we're the two people on the ship right now who are in a Friends of Bill W. meeting. And for us to be able to sit here and do the interview, I so appreciate your willingness to do this, because not everybody wants to be interviewed, but what I found is the feedback I've been getting from people who have been listening around the world is that the interviews have a big impact on their sobriety.
Oh, really?
People who are driving around a lot or exercising or walking their dogs, anybody can listen to a podcast anywhere.
Right.
And because I interview people with all different lengths of sobriety, the show has from 2 years to 64 years sobriety and all measures in between, men and women, all different ethnic groups. It's the complete cross-section of AA.
Okay.
And so when I had the opportunity to meet you, I didn't even think that I was going to be doing this. Otherwise, I would have brought my good equipment. Last time I didn't get a chance to do it, but I'm so glad that you said you'd do this. So Ron, where did you say you were from?
Florida.
From Florida.
Tampa.
Yeah.
Just south of Tampa.
You were telling me earlier about some of the interesting things about AA that you've noticed on ships. Have you always gone to the Friends of Bill W. as you've been cruising?
Yeah, I've always looked forward to going to the meetings on the ship, because you meet a lot of different people from a lot of different areas, and I've made some friends that have been lasting friendships for a while. So, in fact, on one Royal Caribbean ship, I met a fellow that actually came from my same hometown. He ended up being my sponsor.
You're kidding.
Well, we kind of co-sponsored each other. So,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, he died about a year ago. It's finding another sponsor. But it's interesting, just sitting next to a guy, and he's right from my hometown, and ended up being my sponsor. He's a great guy. Died of cancer.
That's sad, but isn't it great that you were able to have the time together that you did?
Oh, absolutely.
That's wonderful. What's interesting about AA meetings on cruises is we're probably the only group that from the outside that has meetings on the ship for a particular reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always admired the fact that people are willing to take the time in the middle of a cruise to go to an AA meeting. But for me, I love it.
Yeah, I love going to the meetings too, but a lot of times there might Might not. I've gone on cruises where nobody showed up.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me
so,
too. Yeah.
So I end up just sitting and having a nice quiet time and doing my meditation and doing some reading, that kind of thing. So it's fine.
The last ship I was on had about 13 to 15 people.
Wow.
Which was a really big group for
sure.
that meeting. But for whatever reason, the cruise line didn't reserve the same room for us each day, and people got confused, and other people were going on the excursions. But what a great way to just get to know people and kind of maintain your sobriety at the same time. Now, how long have you been sober, Ron?
42 years.
42 years.
It's actually the 20th of this month now. It's be 43.
20th of September? No, we're not.
August.
20th of August.
My anniversary, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
So, yeah, tell me about it.
Wow.
It's just, I can't believe, after all this time that I'm still here and I'm still sober. It's a miracle. It's something that it's almost, I don't know. It's been a gift that sometimes I'm not sure I deserve, but.
Yeah, I get that. Now, 42 and a half years ago, or 43 years ago, if somebody told you that 30 or 40 years hence you would have been in AA for X number of years, what would you have said?
I'd say you're crazy. You mean if I was still drinking?
Well, you probably wouldn't be here if you were still drinking.
Absolutely not, yeah.
But what I mean is that, it's not something we aspire to. It's not like a teenager or a young adult says, I hope to be in AA, or I'd like to be in AA.
Yeah.
And even when people get into AA, I always thought, I can hardly wait until I graduate. Somebody said, 37 years from now, which is how long I've been sober, you're going to be sitting in an AA meeting. I'd say, no way, I would have completed AA and stayed sober this whole time without it. So, now, tell me about what the final days were like for you and your drinking.
Well, I traveled a lot at the time, which really, allowed me to do my thing and drink more than I probably would have if I was still at home. But, on the road, just like Katie bar the door, or whatever that phrase is. When I hit my bottom, I was in Philadelphia. I was on business. I ended up, I couldn't go to work. I was so drunk and so fearful, and so I ended up in a hotel room for 3 days with 1 or 2 bottles of vodka. It's kind of a blur to me, but I just remember walking from the bedroom in that motel room into the bathroom and looking at myself in the mirror and just hating that image of myself being in. I just hated myself.
Had you ever felt that way before? Or was that a kind of a reckoning for you?
Well, that's what brought me to my bottom. I suppose I had felt that way, because I think I always had an inferiority complex. I never had a lot of self-confidence. Growing up, in high school, I was a bit of a juvenile delinquent and got into all kinds of trouble and actually got asked to leave in my junior year of high school. So
they kicked you out?
They kicked me out.
Oh my gosh! Did you ever go back and get a GED or anything?
Yes, I did.
You did.
In fact, shortly after that, I went and joined the Navy.
Yeah, I see your hat. You're a veteran. You're a Vietnam veteran.
I was not in country, but
you weren't in country, but Vietnam era
veteran.
Veteran.
I was in there.
Well, thank you for your service.
That was my honor. So anyway, if I hadn't gone into the Navy, I don't think that I would have. I'd be in jail somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure. As would a lot of us.
Yeah.
A number of the interviews I've done have been with people who've done significant jail time, like 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah, wow.
And others that were, equally affected. So that kind of behavior just doesn't show up one day. What you're talking about, those feelings of inferiority or whatever. Yeah. They usually come out of a family system that is, if it doesn't lean towards alcoholism or mental illness, there's something going on that becomes very dysfunctional. Right. What was your family of origin like?
My father, was a practicing alcoholic.
He was?
Like from an early age, I think I started drinking about 12 years old, and steal a bottle of my father's and hide it out in a chicken coop we had in the back. And he had a liquor. Well, it was a shelf that he had installed some doors on, and I would take a little screwdriver and carefully unscrew the screws and and so I guess I was an alcoholic. I'd take the doors off and then I'd pour a little bit out of each bottle and then put the doors back on and screw.
How industrious! So were you the kid in the crowd who was the one able to get the booze at that age?
Yeah. I was the one that was always in trouble.
Yeah.
So,
just bad luck at the time, or because you're drinking?
No, I think partially because of the drinking, but partially just because I just got in trouble all the time.
Yeah.
I ran away from home a few times, and I remember one time we went camping, and a group of us guys, 14, 15, 16, and we ended up in this park, and we'd been drinking. Everybody got drunk. Everybody got sick, and one of the guys that was with us lived in a house. He was 16 years old, so it was his car. And the house was right across the street from the park. So we got him out there, we lined him up, and we said, just drive the car right straight across the park, right into your driveway. But he was so smashed, he ran through the garage door at the house.
Oh, no.
So, and it was his family owned I lived in a really small town when I grew up. His family owned the local drugstore, and his mother came out after they did that, and we were in the park, and she's yelling at us, telling us to hide our beer cans and bottles before morning, and blah blah blah.
Yeah. So wait until Dad gets home. I mean, was that?
Well, what happened was my dad went into town to buy a newspaper, and they told him the whole story. So. By the time he got home, I was laying in a lawn chair out in the yard, sick.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you what happened when Dad came out. He totally disowned me. I think I was 15 at the time. He said he totally disowned me, and then he spit on me.
Oh, jeez.
And I will never, ever forget that.
Would you consider his behavior and him an alcoholic, or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
definitely.
So he's doing that himself, and then he spits on you at 15 for doing what you did under the influence.
Yeah. So anyway, I just, I never had a great deal of self-confidence. I never thought a lot of myself.
Well, it's hard to when someone spits on you, when your own dad spits on you. It doesn't make you feel very encouraged.
Yeah.
I had the same kind of thing where my dad with his beatings and the way the yelling and all the other stuff, he whatever self-confidence I had, he kind of beat it right out of me. And he wasn't a drinker, but he had definitely some mental illness behind it. And so even though he didn't drink, he had a lot of the sickness. And so you grow up and you spend the rest of your life trying to show that you do have self-confidence, but the real self-confidence that you needed instilled was when you were the age that people most often wouldn't give you what you needed.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of sad. But so you hung with a gang that drank, or were you kind of a solitary drinker?
When we went out, the kids went out. It was a little group most of the time that we drank. But I still drank by myself. I had the bottle hidden in the back 40, if you will, because I lived in the country, and it was under. I remember now. I had that bottle hidden underneath the floorboard in this old shed chicken coop thing, and my father had found that bottle one time.
Oh, no.
So I don't remember what happened with that one, but I know I was in a lot of trouble, but he had found that bottle. So.
Were you ever involved with any kind of drugs?
No, not per se. I did one time try something that I had smoked marijuana a couple times. And I had terrible experiences with that both times. And then I was at a party somewhere else, and I don't even know what they were doing, but they were doing something with spoons over a flame, a stove, and some smoke was coming up, and I don't even know what that was because I wasn't into drugs.
Yeah.
But that was a horrible experience. So I never really got into drugs. I mean, I just I was hallucinating stuff, and I didn't like that at all.
So booze did enough for you that you didn't
that
feel
was
like
enough.
you needed to do it.
Yeah.
That's interesting. When you got through high school, what were the next number of years like with regard to what you were doing and the effect that alcohol might have had on that?
Well, I said I joined the Navy after I was asked to leave high school. So I spent the next 6 years in the Navy. Didn't really do a lot of drinking. No, I shouldn't say that. It wasn't too bad when I was in Florida, with just the guys, and really didn't get in any trouble, but I was still drinking. But when I went overseas in Morocco, I started to hit it pretty hard there. I remember one time coming back from town, and in Morocco they couldn't bring the taxis in, so you had to walk from the front gate back to the barracks. And I remember passing out on the road, and some of the guys found me there. I was just out cold right in the middle of the road.
Did you face any consequences from that at the time?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Did not.
How's your life with drinking been with regard to the consequences that occurred? Did you have a lot of consequences happen, or were you like some of the lucky people I know who were able to escape it?
Yeah, I was lucky. In the height of my career, I didn't lose a job. I was still married, still had cars. I didn't get any DUIs, didn't have any accidents. So, I was very lucky from that standpoint.
Some of the toughest cases of alcoholism come out of the feeling that there are no consequences for drinking, and they can't seem to put together the consequences in the drinking. Mm-hmm. Did you see a connection along the way? What was happening in your life to the drinking, or were you able to just get along?
I think in the back of my mind, I knew it was the drinking that was causing. See, I didn't have any real bad consequences, but it was such a mental anguish and helpless, out of control feeling. That was tough. We're talking about earlier about I was in that hotel room for 3 days, and looking at that guy in the mirror, I didn't know if I wanted to live or die. I didn't know what to do. I do remember getting on my knees on alongside the bed and praying. Don't remember what I said in that prayer, but I'm sure I asked God for help. Mm-hmm. And then I did call AA, and I had no idea. I don't recall what was said to me on the phone.
What did you know about AA before you made that call?
Well, I'm not sure I knew a whole lot about AA other than, people that drank too much went to AA. I think that's about all I knew. I didn't have a real positive image of AA and the people that were in AA.
So maybe it was more of an intuitive feel that.
Well, I think it probably was.
Yeah. So you called them and what?
Yeah, I don't remember what they said to me. It seemed like the more I drank in that hotel room, I couldn't kill the pain anymore. I couldn't get drunk enough to make all that garbage that was going on in my head, all that pain. I couldn't get drunk enough to do that. But anyway, I ended up calling a cab and asking them to take me to the hospital. And it turned out it was only 3 blocks away, but I couldn't have walked that 3 blocks in the condition I was in. Yeah. But in the emergency room there and talking to the doctor, I looked up at him. I remember they had me laying down on the gurney. I looked up at him and I said, "I need help." And I think that was the first time in my life that I've ever asked for help and really meant it.
Was that after you had prayed on your knees, or was this?
Well, I'm sure that God got me to that hospital, So I did pray, and then I did call AA, like I said.
And then you're on the way to the hospital, so.
And then I was on the way to the hospital, so.
The prayer kind of comes true in a short order.
Now it took a while for me to understand that, because most of my awakenings or my ahas in AA have been in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, I understand that.
Isn't that interesting how we can see how God has worked in our lives retrospectively, but prospectively, or even in the present moment? It's like the analogy I use is You know, God has a 1,000% batting average. He always hits a home run.
Yeah.
But every time he goes to the plate for us, we always think he's going to strike out.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't. And it's a recurrent theme, I think, for a lot of alcoholics that, yeah, I know God's working in my life, but you know, why don't I feel like that today? Or what if he doesn't work in my life tomorrow when he's worked every single moment of every single day? You mentioned about you didn't lose your job, you didn't lose your wife, you got kids?
Yes, 3 children.
Okay, so the impact of the alcoholism on your family life, what was that like?
Well, let me back up just a little bit.
Sure.
When I asked that ER doctor for help, I told him I needed help.
Yeah.
It was like the weight of the world was lifted. It went off my shoulders. It was just like, I think instinctively I knew it was going to be okay. The weight of the world, I put myself in somebody else's hands. I wasn't in control at that point. Wow. And I just remember how great that felt.
How bad.
But talking about family, when I was in the hospital, I used to carry around miniatures all the time with me, and they detoxed me there.
And you detoxed in the hospital?
Yeah. And this was in Philadelphia. I lived in the Chicago area at the time. And I remember having those miniatures, and I said, boy, I got to get rid of those. And I had, I don't know, 8 or 10 of them, and I poured them in the toilet in the hospital room, and that was the first time I ever realized vodka smelled.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So you asked me a question about the family. I can probably explain it this way. I called my wife at the time, and I said, look, I need some help. I told her what was going on and all that, of course. And I said, when I get back, I want to go right directly into a treatment center.
Mm-hmm.
Would you please make some phone calls, find a treatment center for me? And when I get home, that's where I want to go. I want to go right in that treatment. Well, I got home, and she hadn't done anything. She didn't make any phone calls. And I remember being a little, pissed off about that.
I'll bet.
So I ended up making the calls, and it was like 3 days later I got in, and that was probably, I needed to do that myself.
So did you do your formal detoxing there, or were you already detoxed?
I was already detoxed in Philadelphia. Well, it was 3 days in Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia. So when you got back to Chicago, that's when you went into rehab?
Yeah.
How long did you spend in rehab?
30 days. I needed that rehab to get off. I needed to get off the world for a while to figure out what was going on. Yeah. I couldn't function as a working man or, do anything that... I was a mess.
We'll be right back. My friends, if you're enjoying AA Recovery interviews, I invite you to check out my latest audiobook, Alcoholics Anonymous, the story of how more than 100 men have recovered from alcoholism. This is the word-for-word, cover-to-cover reading of the first edition of the Big Book, published in 1939. It's a relaxing yet meaningful and engaging way to listen to the Big Book anytime, any place. Have a free listen at Audible, iTunes, or Amazon. While you're there, search for my other audiobook, Lost Stories of the Big Book, 30 original stories from the first and or second editions missing from the third and fourth editions of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's an engaging audiobook that brings these stories to life for AA members who've never seen them. These timeless testimonials were originally cut to make room for newer stories in the third and fourth editions. But their vitally important messages of hope are as meaningful today as they were when they were first published. Many listeners will hear these stories for the very first time. It's also available from Amazon as a Kindle book or in paperback if you'd like to read along. You're going to love it. And we're back. What kind of repercussions did it have for your working life?
Actually, they were very supportive.
Were they?
Yeah.
That wasn't at the time of the employee assistance programs, was it?
No.
Yeah.
No, they didn't have much going on with that at that time.
But they understood your problem.
Yeah. My insurance did cover, the treatment center, so that was nice, and the company supported me. I didn't lose my job. I didn't do any of that.
So you were one of those functional alcoholics, weren't you? Just like me.
Yeah, until the very end there, where I was not functional.
Well, the interesting thing is the functional part of alcohol. When you're a functional alcoholic, it makes it even tougher to get sober because if you're functioning as an alcoholic, what's the problem? I get drunk, I have problems, this or that, but I haven't lost my job over it. I haven't lost my marriage over it. Did your wife ever approach you about your drinking and tell you to stop?
It's so long ago it fades, but I'm sure she did.
Yeah,
I'm sure she did. Just to tell you a little bit, it was about a year and a half after I sobered up, after treatment. I finally asked her, I asked you to find a treatment center for me when I came home, and you didn't do that. Why didn't, can you tell me why you didn't do that? And she looked at me and she said, because I didn't dare think that you were serious this time.
Wow. Wow.
And that's when I started to realize all the wreckage in the past, all that debris back there and how much I had affected everybody.
Yeah.
That kind of focused it and really got me thinking about that stuff. So,
in retrospect, how do you feel about the fact that she stayed with you during all of that? I mean, most women. I mean, my wife gave me an ultimatum. We were married for a year and a half, and my marriage was falling apart very quickly. And her father died an alcoholic. He was in AA for a number of years and just could not stay sober. And she gave me an ultimatum. She said, if you want to drink and use drugs, go ahead, but I'm not going to be there.
Yeah.
And so I had to make a choice, continue to drink, go on to the bitter end, or. So if I chose the marriage, and when I did that, I became more involved in AA. So your wife had said something to you about it because she noticed much earlier than you did that there was a problem.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely. We were married for 26 years. Mm-hmm. The last 15 of that, I was sober. I was in AA for the last 15, and then we ended up getting a divorce. So it was a pretty ugly divorce. I haven't seen my kids since the divorce. So it's been, I'd have to do the math again. It's somewhere around 28 years since I have 3 children and I haven't seen or talked to them in the last 28 years.
Have they ever sought you out?
Yeah, they just cut me out. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. I have some pretty good ideas, and it was an ugly divorce, and I'm sure that I try not to blame my wife for this, but she never supported me, and always anything that we did. If I wanted the children to do something or I tried to make them responsible for something, she would go behind my back and say, no, don't do what your dad tells you, that, it's okay not to do it. And so I was made out to be the bad guy, I guess is what I'm trying to say, for a long, long time.
And that was in sobriety.
That was in sobriety, yeah.
Yeah. After you got sober, did the marriage improve? Did your relationship with your...
I thought it did.
Yeah.
Until I got served with papers, but...
And you said that was, 13 years into your marriage? Or
I was married 26.
26, okay.
And so the last 15, I was in sobriety. That's 13 years.
So 13 years in, you get sober, and but you managed to stay married for another 15 years.
Yeah.
What were those 15 years like?
I thought they were pretty good, I guess.
Were you a dry drunk, or?
I may have been.
Yeah.
I have to say that I wasn't the best father.
Yeah.
Okay, but I did the best I could.
Yeah.
At the time, so I don't blame myself for that anymore. I accept it for what it is, and for whatever my part was. I'm still not real sure what that was, but.
Well, tell me about some of your early years in AA. What did you think of AA when you first went, and how did you feel about the early stages of sobriety?
Well, I remember starting out, doing the first step.
Now, this is after you got out of rehab.
Yeah.
You went straight into AA after that?
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, in rehab, they took us to some outside meetings, and they had us working the steps. In fact, I did a 4th and 5th in rehab.
Oh, yeah.
But talking about the first step, I was still having trouble with, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol.
Yeah.
And I had a hard time with that, being powerless over a glass of liquor. I had a really hard time with that. It took me a while. I got the second half of the first step fairly easily, because my life was totally, unmanageable. I was totally out of control. I had so many fears.
Yeah.
My whole life, everything I did around fears. I mean, I couldn't drive on the expressway. If I had to go do a job, that I'd take all the side roads instead of going on the expressway. It'd take me twice as long to get wherever I was going.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do things like get on an elevator. I get so paranoid, so scared on an elevator. I'm a pilot, and I got fearful of flying. I couldn't fly anymore. There were just so many fears that I was controlled by my fear.
Now, this was during your drinking?
During my drinking, yeah. Well, when I quit drinking, too, I still had a lot of these fears.
Yeah. So the alcohol must have helped with them somewhere along the way.
Oh, definitely.
So when you weren't able to drink anymore, what did you do with those problems? In other words, how did you get through them? Sober. That's
the grace of God, I think.
Yeah, that's the part of the story that I was telling you earlier I'd like to hear.
Yeah, by the grace of God. I sometimes I look back at my program and my path to sobriety and serenity and all that. I just kind of look and I go, not quite sure how that all happened. It's from working the steps of the program and having that gift of quiet desperation that we talk about, and being honest as I can, and trying to be as open as I can.
So you were willing to do the work.
Yep. I was willing. When I came in, I was willing to do anything that anybody told me to do to get rid of all this crap in my life. So.
How did you get a sponsor at the time?
I've had 5 sponsors. The first 4 died.
Mm-hmm.
It was a guy at a meeting. We kind of hit it off. His name was Joe.
Mm-hmm.
He was a great sponsor. He really worked with me a lot and
took you through the steps.
Took me through the steps and did a good thing. And unfortunately, he had a heart attack and died. Yeah, I've had 4 sponsors pass away.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I have a guy I've been sponsoring for a number of years now, and when he first asked me to be his sponsor, he said, "Now, you need to know, Howard, that I've buried 3 sponsors already." I said, "Well, I hope you're not going to bury the 4th anytime soon."
Yeah, I jokingly tell people I haven't told my current sponsor about the first 4. So I don't want them to get nervous.
Yeah. Well, tell me about some of the things that you faced in sobriety that sobriety helped you get through, or the things that you faced, good or bad, because we do know people who drink because things are going so good.
Good, yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, there's been a couple things that have happened. A couple of the bad things. I don't remember how long I was in sobriety then, but it was, it was right when I was getting my divorce. So I got served with divorce papers. My father passed away. So I've been about 15 years, I guess. And I lost my job in the printing industry at that time. So I had all 3 of those things happen at the same time, within a couple of weeks, like 3-4 weeks of each other. And I remember that being, I was like in a black hole,
Did you give serious thought to drinking at that point?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Did when all that kind of came down and you saw that black hole starting to open up?
Well, I talked to my sponsor.
Yeah.
Tried to go to more meetings, but I mean that took a while to get out of that spot, Yeah. But I did eventually. I kept praying, and that was a tough time. That really was. Another time, I'd been sober about 1.5 years, and I'd gone to a family function. I was drinking a glass of 7-Up, and somebody had another glass of 7-Up, but they'd put whatever in it. I don't remember what kind of alcohol. Sure. I don't know if I even knew. I picked up the wrong glass. And I took like 3-4 good swallows, like you would do with a soda or whatever. And before that had a chance to get into my stomach, get into my bloodstream, get into my brain, it was like an instant wham. All that, the horror, the terrible feelings, the despair came back instantly just from having that taste in my mouth. And I think that was the day when that happened to me. That was the day when I finally accepted. I accepted I was an alcoholic in my head, but I think that's when I finally accepted it in my soul, in my heart, that I was an alcoholic, because that just happened instantaneously. Oh, that horrible feeling came.
Well, that was the missing powerlessness that you were talking about earlier.
Man, I'm telling you. And I talked to my sponsor, and I said, do I have to start over again? And he goes, no, not as long as you know that you didn't intentionally do that.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I did not.
That's a scary thought. That's a scary thought.
I mean, it just came back so quick on that. That's when I finally accepted it, I think.
It's also probably when you learned the lesson about picking up errant classes. My sponsor told me early on, he said, whenever you get anything in a bar and ask for sparkling water or seltzer water or tonic water, ask for the can.
Yeah.
Don't take the glass, because it gets mixed up all the time.
Yeah. Ever since that happened, it's very religious for me to make sure that I don't accidentally get something.
I even have my wife, she's kind of she's not an alcoholic, but she will test things for me. So if somebody has what turns out to be a brandy ball and I don't know that, before I have a chance to bite in, she's already tasted it, and she'll say, you're not going to want that, it's got brandy in it. So that's a good thing to have happen. A lot of people will say, I drank because of this or that. And I always like to say, well, we drink because we're alcoholic. The things that cause us to drink may be triggers.
Yeah.
I always wondered early on if I could get through the kind of things that you've talked about and the sort of things that I dealt with a very horrible, horrible death of my parents at different times. It was horrible. And if I hadn't had the program, I don't know what I would have done.
No, I agree. I don't know what I would have done either if I didn't have the program to get through those things. I will tell you about a couple of other experiences that I've had in my long-term sobriety. There have been some times where my meetings have slowed down, and finally got to the point where it's been a pretty good span without any meetings. That's happened to me twice. The one I remember for sure, I must have had some kind of intuition from my higher power.
Yeah.
Said, gee, you better go to a meeting. And I'd probably been 2 months without a meeting. I remember going to a few meetings and talking to people and telling them everything's good, I'm doing well, I'm feeling good, and I'm not having any problems. In fact, I got a promotion at work. I said, everything's just going well. But it took a few meetings and a few people talking to me and getting back with my sponsor to realize just how much I was in control again.
Yeah, isn't that something?
It's insidious. It's cunning, baffling, and powerful. So.
And what we tend to forget in that moment is the service that is not being provided by our experience because we're not in a meeting to give it.
Exactly.
Right? We're denying other people whatever it is that we did that might help them, just for the fact that we're not there.
Yeah.
That must have been tough. So did you kind of reignite things?
Yes, absolutely. I said, I can't do this again. And I don't remember if that was the first or second time, but I had a couple of times that happened, and it must have been the last time.
I've always seen why it's so important to have good friendships in the program and a good sponsor, because those are the guys who will call me up if they don't see me in a while and say, what's going on? Yeah. Because my first thinking whenever something really bad occurs is, I don't want to have to go to a meeting and talk about that, which is it's almost counterintuitive to the whole idea. We go to meetings for help, but the help that's really going on there is the help we're giving other people by being able to talk about it. This horrible thing happened. Where am I sitting? I'm sitting in an AA meeting. There must be a connection.
Yeah. Duh.
Yeah. Isn't that something, how we forget that so easily?
Yeah.
Yeah. So over the 42 years, what does service work look like for you with regard to your groups or sponsorship or involvement in AA in other ways?
Well, in the beginning, used to do quite a few 12-step calls with my sponsor and got involved in taking some meetings to the prison. Mm-hmm. But then that kind of fell off. I haven't had a lot of sponsees. It just hasn't presented itself. I don't know why. I've got several right now. Here, just a couple, 3 years ago, I decided I really needed to full court press.
Yeah,
Really step up and start working hard again. Doing a lot of meetings, chairing a lot of meetings.
Good.
This one meeting that I really like to go to, I chaired that for about a year and a half.
It's down in Florida.
Down in Florida, yeah. That's an interesting experience. The other thing I do is once a month, I go in a treatment center with a group of guys, and we hold a meeting in the treatment center. So, and I get a lot out of it.
It's gratifying.
Huh?
It's gratifying.
Yeah, it's gratifying. Yep.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about graduation. It wasn't too long ago. I did a meeting at a treatment center, and guys were asking me, well, how much sobriety do you have? And I told them 41 or 42 years, whatever it was at the time. And the guy says, oh, well, you should have graduated by now. He said, you're still going to meetings after all that time? I said, yes. And I talked about why, and that I know that I'm an alcoholic. I'll always be an alcoholic, and I need this program to keep me on thinking straight, because left to myself, I don't think very well.
Yeah, well, it's amazing, even with all the experience and strength and hope that we're able to impart to other people, when they don't want it or they think they need something different, they don't get it. Yeah. And that's why I always like to ask people during your time taking the meetings into the treatment center, how many of those guys are still around and sober? Yeah. And sometimes it's about the handoff from the treatment center to AA is just not very strong, and so people get out. And I've chaired and led meetings at treatment centers, not very many, but I've spoken at more than I have chaired. And one of the things that the treatment centers do very well in getting people sober is to convince them that the ideas they've learned there will keep them sober. Yeah. And AA is almost a secondary consideration to what's happening there. Well, of course, what's going on in the treatment center is real important. Mm-hmm. But when people come out of there and say, I'm done, I feel great, and there's not an AA there to kind of grab them when they get out. Right. The most successful people from treatment centers I've seen, not so much treatment centers themselves, but people go to multiple treatment centers. Yeah. And so is there something that's being missed? And I'm convinced a lot of it is over AA meetings and AA people who are not getting involved in helping those people when they get out. Yeah. And
well, I mean, that could be, but sometimes you look in the meetings and you talk to the people in the treatment centers, and some of them been in 4 or 5 times. And you can, and I try not to take people's, judge people. Sure. But you can see the ones that are really paying attention, that are really interested, and you just look at the other people, and some of them, you just like, they're marking time. They just want to get out of the meeting and go do something else. Yeah,
I'm kind of with you on that. If I had placed money bets on who would stay sober versus who would drink, I probably would have lost a lot of money. I probably would have made some money along the way, true. But the important thing is that you're still sober, and 42 years is an amazing accomplishment. And I honor and respect and am grateful that you and I met.
I didn't do it. We did it.
Yeah, we did it.
It's not an I program; it's a we program.
Yeah, we were just tools in some higher power's toolkit, weren't we?
Yeah. I have a little pamphlet that I've carried around for a long time, and I didn't bring it on this cruise. I forgot it. Called "Why We Are Chosen," and it's not an AA approved literature, but it talks about who best know, and it's in the big book too, but who best to talk to another alcoholic than an alcoholic, and they can understand somebody like that. So, but it goes into detail about why we were chosen, and I got that early in my program, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. And so I kept it. It's a bookmark.
Oh, how great.
I've had it for all that time. So
that's great story. Well, we've run out of time. We've got to go on to other things, but Ron, thanks a million for doing this, and I really, it's a great story.
Thank you, Howard.
I think it's really cool.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Well, my friends, that's a wrap for today's episode of AA Recovery Interviews. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed AA Recovery Interviews, will you please tell others how to listen to it? Think of it as a little AA service that spreads the word about this rich and meaningful listening experience. It's yet another helping hand we can all extend to alcoholics everywhere. Visit my website, aarecoveryinterviews.com, where you can listen to every episode of AA Recovery Interviews. And if you want to contact me directly with any comments or suggestions, simply email howard@aarecoveryinterviews.com. By the way, this podcast strictly adheres to AA's 12 traditions and all General Service Office guidelines for safeguarding anonymity online. I pay all production costs, and no one receives financial gain from the show. AA Recovery Interviews and my guests do not speak for or represent AA at large. This podcast is simply my way of giving back to AA that which has been so freely given to me. The next episode of AA Recovery Interviews is on the way, so keep coming back. It'll be here soon.